Welcome to Landman Now, where you can re-energize with those who lead the way for the land profession. Landman Now, podcasting the profession, is presented by the American Association of Professional Landmen, the essential community for all who perform or are associated with land work. Landman Now starts now.
Today on Landman Now, we'll be discussing the AAPL Landman Scholarship Trust and the opportunities it provides for those individuals seeking employment in the land profession. Today with me, I have Nancy McCaskell, AAPL President and President of Masonboro Energy, and Jason Maloy. Jason is a graduate of 2 AAPL accredited programs and the founder and owner of Tall Cotton Energy and co-founder of Rising Star Energy. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks.
So Nancy, first I want to ask, what, in your opinion, what is a landman?
For me, a landman is a deal maker and a negotiator. We're the first public face anybody sees in the oil and gas and energy industry, from oil and gas to wind to solar to geothermal. If you ask a handful of landmen, they would all say we're something different. We do build relationships, we make deals, we talk to people.
Very good. And the Landman Scholarship Trust, for those who are interested or maybe don't know about it, what can you say about that?
The Landman Scholarship Trust is a trust that was formed by the American Association of Professional Landmen in 1958 to give cash scholarships to deserving and qualified students. And that now occurs in our accredited programs with universities across the United States.
Awesome. And Jason, your role today, how did the scholarship benefit you?
Greatly. I would not be where I am today without the Landman Scholarship Trust. I attended the University of Oklahoma on an athletic scholarship, and I left the University of Oklahoma on a Landman Scholarship. My family, like many families, went through a severe financial issue when I was in school. I ended up in my director's office and just my hands up, I didn't know what to do. He walked me through what AAPL can do, what the Landman Scholarship Trust is for. He reached out to alumni, local associations, and I was able to get my degree at the University of Oklahoma because of AAPL.
That's awesome. And what does the scholarship process look like for?
The scholarship process is really very rigorous. Students in our accredited programs must fill out applications, provide us with their transcripts, have personal interviews with the trustees. There are 12 trustees on the Landman Scholarship Trust. We refer to that as LST, just to make that a little bit easier. So on LST, there are 12 trustees. The students fill out their forms, their applications. Those are submitted to the trustees. The trustees go through all of their transcripts, all of their essays, all of their forms and applications. They then perform interviews with the students, and we decide how much, if any, scholarships a student will get, and they range generally anywhere between $2,500 and $5,000 across the board. So those scholarships help the students, and over the last several years we've given in excess of $250,000 in scholarships each year to students in our programs. It's pretty exciting.
That is, and it's not just for anybody. I mean, these students put in the work and they go through the process to get this.
Right, these students put in the work. They're in energy management programs, so they're learning all about environmental rules and laws. They're working on contracts. They're understanding energy laws across the United States. They're really the up-and-comers in our energy world. And so the Landman Scholarship Trust, having been created by the American Association of Professional Landmen, which is all about landmen in our profession and where we're going to go and what we're going to do, it's pretty important, and it's a big deal to the students.
Yeah, it is. And how many schools are accredited with AAPL?
There are 16 schools that have programs in their universities that accredit students. And the interesting thing about that, at least to me, is it's not just a certification program. The undergraduate programs are 4-year college degree programs in energy management, dealing with all sorts of facets of natural resources.
And the LST is one way for students to get involved. What is another way for students or recent grads to get involved?
Great question. So the LST and the Accreditation Committee and a lot of various committees with AAPL actually go back and talk to students pretty regularly. And so we have a handful of slides that we recommend students can get involved. A lot of these students look to the AAPL for guidance on how to set up essentially their local association at their school. And so they'll have a president, vice presidents, various duties. And so one of the things that we have recommended is that if there are specific committees that they would like to be on, even as a student member, they're a member of AAPL, they're student members. Various committees allow student members to be on the committees and to participate, join subcommittees. But the Landman Scholarship Trust also seeks feedback through a leadership council that meets at least once a year. Usually it's 4 times a year on the student schedule, and really the intent is that all the students can get together, have a conversation about what's working, what's not working, what they're seeing in the industry, maybe provide some guidance back to AAPL. Have you considered doing this or allowing this? So that open line of communication is critical for not just AAPL, but our future members. These are, at some point right now, at one of our at our accredited programs is the president of AAPL.
Yeah.
The future president of AAPL right now is a student somewhere. And so we want to ensure that that line of communication is open into what they're seeing so that we can integrate those, whether it be accreditation rules and curriculum guidance, whether it be a committee, including some of the students on some of the committees, or just listening to them. We want them to understand that they're a member. They're just as important as anybody else. And so we're here to listen to them and work with them.
Yeah.
I think too, Jason, one of the really cool things about that is not only does LST afford students the ability to get cash scholarships, but we also have an outstanding graduate from one of our accredited programs. And so the directors of each program designate a student that they think is their best and their brightest to be designated as AAPL's outstanding graduate. And those students fill out a whole different set of applications. They have interviews with the trustees, generally during NAPE, which is really cool, and they come in and then we decide the one that we think is the very best. We recognize them at our annual meeting, we recognize them in our magazine, we recognize them on social media, and it's really just a super fantastic deal for the students. And it's super fantastic for us, because if we were static and we weren't moving forward in the energy world and as a profession, we wouldn't be relevant. And having the insights from young people in colleges and university in our energy management programs is really exciting for us.
Yeah, and to get to see those people as they rise through the ranks, and to see, hey, I remember you when you were in college.
One of our most recent outstanding graduates, her name is Ellery Sutton. And Ellery Sutton grew up in California, and she was on a college road trip with her mother. I think they were ultimately headed to one of the universities in Georgia. And on their way from California to Georgia, they stopped in Lubbock, Texas, at Texas Tech. And Ellery said she fell in love with the campus. And so she went on to Georgia and came back and enrolled at Texas Tech in their energy management program. She didn't know a thing in the world about energy, barely how to spell it. She started out her freshman year, started talking to the professors and the guidance counselors at Tech, and she decided that was one of the most interesting things she ever heard of. And she became our outstanding graduate in her senior year at Texas Tech. She now works at EOG Resources, and she's a star, and that's so really cool for us.
That is cool to get to watch somebody's progression like that,
Yeah.
and then telling where she'll go from there.
Yeah, way past me.
We also have multiple outstanding grads that are now professors in our accredited programs. So talk about full circle.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I wanted to ask both of you, What's your advice to someone who wants to enter into the energy industry?
Gosh, it's so interesting. So I started off with degrees in English and philosophy, and I couldn't get a job. And my mother said there was a thing called a landman. She thought I'd be pretty good at it because I could read and do research. And my advice to somebody getting into really any profession, but particularly the energy profession and being a landman, is to talk to people about it, understand all the various things that we do across the spectrum. You can work in the field and buy right-of-way, settle surface damages. You can work in a big company. You can handle contracts and negotiations. I've been lucky enough to negotiate deals in the hundreds of dollars and deals in the billions of dollars with all sorts of people from all across the spectrum. But my suggestion is talk to landmen, ask us what we do, see where you might fit. We've got lots of education, we have certification, the Landman Scholarship Trust that will help you with your education. So talk to us, we'd love to have you.
I think, building upon that, not just getting information, that's step one. Do you fit into this industry? But take that a step further. Nancy told me, Brooks Yates has told me, Sarah Sandberg at the AAPL meeting, build a circle. Build a circle of mentors, build a circle of people you trust, get their feedback. So as you're putting together and researching, do I fit in, start building those mentorship relationships, because you're gonna need that feedback and you may or may not wanna hear it, but it will be beneficial. So build a circle, build a people that you trust, that you seek advice from, that can help guide you in your career.
Yeah, and I think going into any industry can be intimidating for a college grad, so having a resource like APL,
Yes.
where you have people who are just willing and able to help you, that's a huge resource.
One of the interesting stories we were talking about this morning, right before we started this, we were talking about Jason's scholarship from LST when he was in undergraduate school. We were also talking about Janine Piskurek, who years ago got a scholarship from the Landman Scholarship Trust. She was a first generation college attendee, much less became a very first college graduate in her family. She got a scholarship from the Landman Scholarship Trust and says that she wouldn't have been able to complete her studies. When she did graduate, she went to work for a company that was in existence at the time that was called Amico, became the first female VP of land at BP, and everybody who knows who BP is. And she's left a legacy gift to the Landman Scholarship Trust. So, it's Landman Scholarship Trust has impacted everyone generation across generation from 1958 to 2024, and it's something that we look forward to every year.
Giving back monetarily is obviously important, but it's the time. The most valuable resource we each have is our time. And to go to AAPL and the Landman Scholarship Trust and give your time and participate on those different committees and trusts and foundations it's what the heart and soul of AAPL is about. And so money is fantastic and we need it, but we also need time. And that really is what makes AAPL and our profession unique, is the time that our friends and colleagues are willing to give back. So that's absolutely critical.
Experience is priceless. To be able to pass that on to somebody, you can't
Time
put
and
that-
talent.
That's right.
That's what it's all about. We love to have it.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask, Jason, what is one of your craziest Landman stories?
I don't know if it's the craziest, it's one of the most recent. I was in my office about 2 weeks ago. I'll speak Landman. We had a must spud by date coming up by September 1st, which means we actually have to have the rig on location. We're turning to the right. We're going to penetrate the ground with a rig capable of getting to TD. That's what my lease says. So we're preparing for this, we're getting our permit. And I get a phone call from the drilling company, and they said, as of 2 hours ago, your rig was on time, and we were gonna meet your deadline, but the rig, the oil derrick, is on the ground on the side of the road in the county in which you're gonna drill your well, and it's gonna take about 60 days to completely rehaul the derrick and get it back up and running. So I start jotting down as much information as I can that they were willing to tell me. Where is the rig? Whose location is it on? Is it near my landowner? Just all the pertinent information. And so I go and talk to our drilling engineer, and I tell him kind of, the rig's not coming, here's why. And so we immediately say, okay, here's kind of our options. We can go back to the drilling contractor, and they do have another rig that we can utilize. It's currently not being used, so it's most likely what they call a cold crew. So it's not a group that's been working together for a long period of time and can get your well down. So that's option one, but they can meet the must-spud by date. Option two is we go to the landowner and we explain the situation, and we let him have some input. If he's willing to grant us an extension, then we'll use the hot rig, and if he prefers us to meet the timeline, then we'll use this substitute rig. So we called the landowner, laid it all on the line, and he said, well, it seems to me that the best option is to use the hot rig, and so let's wait. And so obviously that was a good outcome. He gave us an extension to make sure we could use our preferred rig. He was happy. I think he enjoyed the fact that he got input, which I think is always important. Yeah. We were able to communicate kind of the problem. But the picture that was sent to me of the rig on the side of the road is pretty wild. So that's probably the most recent craziest story. I think we all have interesting negotiation stories. This was when I was I would refer to myself as a baby landman, right out of school. And we had, everybody's got kind of sticky landowners stories. And so this particular landman had negotiated with multiple landmen at the company I was working with. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was kind of, hey, you're the new guy, why don't you call this person? And so we start negotiating, and the first thing he says is, my property is a sovereign state. I am not part of Texas, and I am not part of the United States, and I do not recognize their authority. So I knew this was going to be interesting.
One of those guys.
One of those. So we get into kind of what we were trying to do, and at the time we already had the mineral lease. He was a surface owner. We were trying to explain that we want to come on location, we want to work with you. We're trying to be transparent in timing and everything, and so we threw out kind of the industry standard for the county prices, and he came back with a handwritten letter that was about 9 pages long, and his prices included $100,000 per square inch for surface damages.
Per square inch?
Per square inch surface damages, and $1 million per minute after the first 3 minutes, which are free. So any consultation after 3 minutes was $1 million a minute. Suffice to say, there was a little bit of a gap between our pricing.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get a deal done on that one, but it was definitely a story that I still remember. And again, that was 20 plus years ago.
$1 million a minute.
Yeah. Interesting character. I kind of Google his name every now and again to see what's going on, but that was
probably not a lot of drilling.
Not a lot of drill. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, good deal. I do want to ask you both a couple of quick questions before we head out. So Nancy, I'll start with you. If you weren't a landman, what would you be?
The ruler of the world.
You settled for a ruler AAPL.
No, I'd be like Yoda in the universe.
The ruler of the world, Jason?
If I wasn't doing this and I could do anything, growing up, I wanted to be an Olympian. And the Olympics are about to start. I always saw myself as an athlete.
What sport?
I grew up running track.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up playing football, but I always thought that was the pinnacle of track and field. So I always wanted to be an Olympian. I wanted to get my hands on those Olympic rings.
Bring home the gold.
Bring home the gold. That's right.
There you go. Okay, what is a surprising fact or hidden talent?
I'm very tall.
It's all the camera. Just. What about you? Surprising fact or hidden talent?
Along the same lines, I was a hurdler in college. So when I was getting recruited, I was described as 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing. So, but I ended up being a high hurdler and a 400 meter hurdler. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, you can give me any one of these. Your favorite movie, book, TV show, or musical artist?
Oh gosh, I have so many favorites. One of my favorite books, because I grew up a long time ago, was To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
TV show is probably the one that I've got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and their favorite TV show is called The Middle. It's got Patricia Heaton. It's just a hilarious family show. My boys just watch it every single day. I think I've watched all 9 seasons about 30 times. I have everything memorized, but my boys love it, and therefore I love it.
There you go.
I would put that as a close second to Bluey, and probably Mickey Mouse. So that's kind of TV shows. And then every night I read Goodnight Drilling Rig to my 5-year-old. So it was my 9-year-old. He's progressed. He's into Harry Potter and all the big books, but my 5-year-old loves it. And it's by Kyle Wagner, Goodnight Drilling Rig. And he's here in Fort Worth, and there's a whole page on Landman. And so the book is memorized, but whenever we get to that, my 5-year-old kind of yells out, and all the leases have been signed by the Landman. So
well, anybody who's having a baby, we know what book to get them.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a great gift. So.
Well, thank you both so much for taking your time to join us today. This has been great. It was really good to get to talk to both of you.
Yeah, enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks.
Well, until next time, this has been Landman Now.
Thank you for listening to Landman Now, podcasting the profession. For more information on the land profession, how to become a landman, AAPL membership and upcoming offerings, visit landman.org. We'd also like to thank our Alliance program partners for supporting Landman Now, as well as our advocacy efforts, educational offerings, and so much more. Our partners include Apache, BPX Energy, Chevron, Coterra, Devon, Expand, EOG Resources, EQT, Equinor, Oventive, and Oxy. Until next time, keep exploring.